to Happiness and Progress. I'm your host, Danielle Craig. I'm an Emmy Award winner, former journalist, mom, wife, and just a person looking for more joy in the everyday. On this podcast, you'll hear stories of inspiration, overcoming, and perspective that will help you become the best version of you. This podcast is brought to you by the Mail Tribune. Check out mailtribune.com for more podcasts. If you like this podcast, will you just take a minute to share it? Just grab a screenshot right now, share it on social. Don't forget to tag me so I can share it as well. And of course, I want to thank you so much for being here. Okay, something I've been thinking a lot about and have been wanting to talk about more is comparisons. I have another episode on this. I'll link it in show notes. But comparisons seem to rule our worlds, especially in this year, 2019, where we are all on social comparing our realities to someone else's specifically curated squares that look perfect. This quote from C.S. Lewis gets me every time. He says, "Pride gets no pleasure out of having something, only out of having more of it than the next man. It is the comparison that makes you proud, the pleasure of being above the rest. Once the element of competition is gone, pride is gone." End quote. Mic drop quote there. How crazy is that? We compare ourselves to people worse off than us so we can feel good about ourselves. But the problem with this is the practice of comparisons will make us feel bad about ourselves when we see people who are ahead of us. So let's start with comparing ourselves online and what this does. So we spend our days and hours of our days. Actually, before I get into this, do me a favor. At some point today, take a moment to look at how much time you spend on social media. I know iPhones can do this in the settings. Instagram has this within the app. Look it up. See how much time you're spending on social. All of that time you spend on your social media account, looking at other people's perfectly curated lives in perfect little squares, diverts your attention from what you really want. So for me, I left the news business a couple years ago now, yet I still have dozens of friends in the news business. And those friends are going on to get promotions, they're winning Emmys, they're getting jobs in big markets, accomplishing goals I had. When I first look at their beautiful golden statues on their feeds or pictures of the awesome story they're doing, what do you think my first thought is? Why am I not doing that anymore? I then compare myself. I should be doing this. Should I be doing that? I could have landed that big job or won that Emmy by now. Here's the problem. I am not even in the game. I can't win an Emmy because I'm not doing stories. I could not have won an Emmy when a whole bunch of my friends did these last couple weeks because I did not have a story to enter last year. And what this thought process does is gets me off of what I'm trying to do. So right now, I'm not trying to win Emmys. I'm trying to build a community where I can uplift you and impact your life in a positive way as I'm learning to do the same thing with mine. So I get so caught up in what I'm not doing that I'm not looking at how much I love this podcast and how much I loved Happiness and Progress Live or being at home when my 4-year-old wakes up from a nightmare at 3 a.m. This is what I want to do. Yet, a Facebook post can get me looking way off my goal. Has this happened to you? See, if we are overly concerned with how someone else looks or what their parenthood looks like, where they are on vacation, how many likes they have, whether they're winning awards or how successful their kids are, we cannot accomplish our own goals. Our goals get sidetracked by what other people are doing. So I like to think about this. Have you ever been driving along when all of a sudden you slow way down? You finally get up to what's causing the slowdown. You look over, and it's literally like a car sitting on the side of the road. It's not even in an accident. No one's hurt. There's no one outside of it. It's just an empty car on the side of the road. Yet that car and everyone's desire to look way over there, rubbernecking as they pass by, had everyone slowing down. Now you're slowing down to get a good look. What happens to you and your goal, in this case, your destination, when this happens? Traffic. Traffic happens. You tack on anywhere from 15 minutes to hours of drive time by focusing on what's happening over there on the side of the road. What does this look like when we apply it to our lives? What does it look like when we have our necks turned so far over there, staring at that social media feed instead of your destination, which is your goal? What does this do to your goals? What does 5 minutes in traffic look like when you apply it to your life and your goals? Even worse, what does hours looking over there at her life or his life and their goals, what does that do when you get so off track for hours? What does it do to your goals? We can get so distracted with her house, we're not focused on the goal we have to get a promotion. We're so distracted with her perfect kids, we're not focused on our goals of exercising every day. We're so distracted with his perfect marriage, we're not focused on our own. We're so distracted with her meals, her decor, his job, his friends, we're not focused on anything that matters to us. What's happening in this case is we are focusing on how our reality compares to his or her highlights. But I get it. It's hard. It's hard not to get distracted on social media. This is why mindfulness and journaling have become so mainstream. The challenge here is to spend less time on social media and more time with yourself. At least one of the times you go to open Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever it is you use, open notes instead. Jot down a couple ideas. Jot down your concerns, your hopes for the future, untouched by anyone else's lives. This will take you a couple minutes. Think of it as leaving a comment for yourself, something you have on your mind untouched by others' lives. My other tip is to be really intentional about when you get on social media. Right now, a really popular thing to do is to wait 1 hour when you wake up before opening social media, or 1 hour before your bed, putting that aside to not open social media during that time. Another idea, something I've been doing, is choosing the times you will go on social media specifically. I do a little better when I allow myself things rather than when I take them away. So choose the times you will get on social media. Say, start your morning off and say, I'm going to get on social media at 9 a.m., noon, 2 p.m., 6 p.m., and right before I go to bed. Give yourself 10 minutes every time you do your scroll, and then hop off. Be intentional with whatever you decide. When we are constantly comparing ourselves, we will never be enough. As my husband and I were talking about the things we wanted our children to know, long before we had kids actually, it came up that he wanted to make sure they knew there would always be someone better than them at whatever it is they wanted to do. And I was like, no way. I want them to believe they can be the very best. And he said, they can be their best, but odds are if they're a basketball player, there will always be a better basketball player. There will always be a better chess player, someone who's better at math and reading, a faster runner, and it goes on and on and on. So even if our hypothetical child at that point worked his little butt off and won a local championship, then maybe even a state championship, the odds are that somewhere in this huge world, there would be someone doing a little bit better than him. That means when we compare ourselves to others, it takes the joy out of our success. So if I win an Emmy Award, but I'm busy comparing myself to my friend from college who has won like 5, how do I feel now? Terrible, because I'm sitting there asking myself, why have I not won 5? If I run my very first marathon at 6 hours, it's amazing because I just ran a marathon. But if I compare myself to my cousin who qualified for the Boston Marathon at less than 4 hours, how do I feel now? Terrible. If I held an event where 100 women showed up, but on the very same day, one of my favorite speakers posted about how she spoke to 7,000 people that same day, did I achieve less? That sounds crazy, right? No, that would be ridiculous. I talk a lot about Emmys on this program because I love my Emmy. I love my other nomination as well. But one of my favorite things about the way the regional Emmy program works is that per category, there can be more than one winner. So it's not necessarily that only one best entry will win. It's not a comparison within that category. It's that every entry worthy on its own merit of an Emmy will get an Emmy. So sometimes there are several winners. And sometimes there are categories where not one single entry gets the nomination. This is my reminder that there is always room and always space for anyone of merit who deserves to win. Or how does this apply to your home? In your home, maybe it's that you compare your dinner with that perfect dinner your favorite Instagrammer always posts. When she has a yummy dinner, it does not take away from the fact that you too can make a yummy dinner. When she renovates her home, it does not take away that you can do the same. When she lands a new job, it does not take away from your ability to do the same. This goes back to what I like to talk about, the scarcity mindset. I'm planning a full episode on this, so I'm just going to give you cliff notes here. A lot of times we compare ourselves because we're operating out of a scarcity mindset. This is basically when we think there's not enough for everyone. We don't think she can win because that means we lose, right? That's the scarcity mindset. And when we operate out of scarcity, we don't give other people a chance to succeed, or we don't celebrate their wins because we are too scared that their win is our loss. And it's just not the case. Her win, his win, not your loss. Their vacation, not your loss. Their new baby, not your personal loss. Their marriage is not your loss. There is enough for everyone. When we compare ourselves to someone else, a lot of times what's happening is that we're looking at what they have compared to what we lack. And when we focus on what we lack, we continue to lack. So what's the solution? The opposite of focusing on what we lack is focusing on what we have. This is why gratitude is so important. When we can sit down and write what we have, it doesn't come as naturally to feel so low when another person has something because we started our day with a list of things we have and things we're grateful for. So if you're really feeling the envy, this is what I do. Be specific with your gratitude in that space of where you're comparing. So if you're comparing your Instagram followers, say, instead of, well, I don't have the amount of Instagram followers they have, say, I am grateful for my X amount of followers. If you're comparing years in the business, say, I am grateful to have started. I am grateful for the opportunity to learn. If you're comparing your salary, say, I'm grateful for a paycheck. If you're comparing your relationships, say, I'm grateful for this aspect of my relationship. If you're comparing kids, say, I'm grateful for these little beings who are alive and with me today. Okay, so 3 things you can do today to get your mind out of the comparison trap. 1, write your own thoughts and feelings untouched by your social media feed. Remember that random car parked on the side of the freeway? Do not let a random car get you distracted from your goals. 2, be intentional about when you get on social media. Pick a couple times a day, 4 times a day, 5 times a day, wherever you need to start. Pick those times a day and stick to it. 3, start trading your lack for your gratitude. I hope some of these tips help. Don't forget to share this podcast episode and send me a message. Let me know what you want to hear more of. And of course, I just want to thank you so much for being here on Happiness in Progress.